Leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about alignment, awareness, heart, and grit. I'm Tammy Ebright, leadership strategist, and this is Unleash Your Amazing Leadership. Join me as I chat with leaders who are evolving, growing, and creating real impact on purpose. Each week, you'll hear stories that inspire, challenge, and remind you of who you are. Let's dive in. So, welcome back to Unleash Your Amazing Leadership. Today, my special guest is Ryonda Hall, OCD Financial. Ryonda is a good friend of mine. We don't talk often. When we do, it's like we've never been apart. And we met about 13 years ago through a widow organization, right after we had both lost our husbands. And our stories are similar. They both died suddenly and then leaving us to raise, I don't know, Dakota was 10 and Hunter was 4. And Mike was 10,
Mike was 9,
9,
and Lyndon was 4.
and Lyndon was 4.
Yeah.
So very similar ages.
Mhm.
We always kind of felt like it was a similar story. And since then, we've both definitely gone different paths than we were originally on in our own legacies. And Rhonda started this amazing organization where she helps people understand their finances after she learned that she had OCD in 2014. And so she uses her precision to drive in the world of finance. And I'm just so excited to have her here as one of my guests.
I'm excited to be on. I'm excited to share and just be in your presence because it's been a while.
Well, it has been a while. So tell me, let's start like kind of just your history, kind of where you were and that pivotal point whenever you decided to start your own business after losing your husband suddenly.
I had been in corporate America at the same job for 18 years, pretty much prior to losing Mike. And I would say I was, pretty content for the most part, but I guess that's the right word, just kind of content. The job was challenging, the environment was challenging. And so towards the end and then closer to that experience losing a spouse, it just changed my whole perspective about life as a whole. And the cliche about, life is short was real. It wasn't just a one-liner anymore.
Mhm.
And I just had a new outlook and a new perspective. And I really decided at that point, I just wanted to live fearless. And because Mike was only 43 when he passed, I'm like, well, who's to say how many years I have left? And I want to make sure that I maximize and I serve in my purpose and do everything that I possibly can while I am still here. So resigning from corporate America, literally on a humbug, and just deciding to start my own business, do my own thing was all a part of that searching for myself and wanting to serve a greater purpose in life.
Now, I remember right after you first started your business, but you had this skit where you had this boss that gave you a really crappy desk to work in. It looks like you've upgraded since then, though.
Funny. That often comes up in my Facebook memories every now and again. And so, yes, definitely upgrade. But you know what? Believe it or not, do you know this is just a virtual background?
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So a lot of people think it's like I've had so people like, is that your album? Like, no, it's just a virtual background. So I found them like online where you can like, what do you call it? Customize it and like put your logo on there, and it really looks like, like you're in an office space. So I really like it.
Yeah, it's nice because sometimes whenever your body moves throughout it, it kind of can change different.
Uh-huh.
That one seems to be really good. So nice.
Yep. So yeah, so we've upgraded and my boss treats me a whole lot better since the beginning. She's recognized my value.
It's a good thing. It is a good thing that we learn to recognize our own value
Yes,
for
yes,
sure.
yes. So even on the terms of leadership, she leads better.
Mm, mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
things we've
Well,
learned,
your feedback had to have been a part of that.
I'm sure.
So, living with OCD can bring some daily challenges. So, how has that experience really shaped what you're doing now and how the world around you?
Did say that I have learned to take what some may look at as a weakness
Mhm.
and use it as a strength.
Mhm.
So, especially in my particular field. And so I often say too, what better accountant to have, or what better type of personality type to manage your money than someone who is actually OCD. Obviously in the business realm, OCD stands for obedience, character, and discipline.
Mhm.
With just a spin on the acronym, believing that those are the three principles that it takes to have financial freedom. However, me and my personality type, again, what I call it, and my diagnosis, it really, to me, is just again a benefit in the field that I'm in. It's helped me quite a bit just because I am that person who it's got its strengths and its weaknesses, right? It's got its pros and its cons, and then there's still areas of that I try to work on to
Mhm.
improve, because personally I don't want to always be that person. So that makes it bittersweet. And so there are areas of my life that I work on trying not to be the person that I feel like I naturally am, because it doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit me to take extra time, unwarranted time, to repeatedly do things over and over, to check for things over and over and over. It's the perfectionist. Sometimes my level of perfectionism is on 10. So what some people think OCD is just about being neat and keeping a tidy house, and I just like my stuff clean. It's farther than that. It's way beyond that. It's almost an uncontrollable mindset that won't allow you to stop certain methodical actions and doing things the same way all the time, repetitious. There's no other way to do it. And then also that level of perfectionism where you can't stop checking something. You do it over and over, something's right, you still go back and you check it again. And often, sometimes in my work, it can be a hindrance where I've already dealt with something and
Mhm.
I've already finished a project per se. And if I take some time off and go back to it, I can't just start where I left off. I feel like I have to start back at the beginning. And so I wind up redoing a lot of things, and it can be very time consuming. So I have to actually kind of talk to myself and say, it's okay. You did that. And just learning that progress is better than perfection. So
Yes.
that's my latest quote that I repeat to myself on a regular. Progress is better than perfection, because you can get stuck in perfection.
You can, and I know from my own perfectionism, Virgo,
Yep.
that was very stressful to, especially to Dakota. I think that with Hunter, I had relaxed quite a bit, but especially after you lose somebody, suddenly the fear and the wanting things to be a certain way and the worry is, it can be over, kind of where it just takes over your life and things have to look a certain way. And a long time ago, I had to be like, okay, if there's dishes in the sink, that is not something to stress anybody else about. Like,
That's right.
you have to like pick your bat, you have to learn to pick your
That is right. That is right. That's what it's all about, and realizing that the things that we think are so magnified,
battle.
realizing they're only magnified to you. And
Yes.
sometimes that's hard, to downscale and be like, it's not a big deal. I can move on from this. It doesn't have to be that way. And that's really kind of how the conversation came about from being in therapy, right? So I went to grief therapy, And when the discussion came about what I was really struggling with, of course, I was grieving and that sort of thing. But in addition to that, my grieving was again felt magnified because I was realizing I was struggling being the person I was used to being. And so now I'm by myself. I have two young children. And it was to the point where I didn't realize how bad it was, where doing the dishes is one thing, but I'm I couldn't walk out the house without the remote controls being right where they should be on the nightstand. Now, I still do that. I am still extremely repetitive in my actions. But things like that, where the lamp's got to be right where it should be, and the remote's in the right order, and then my telephone and all of that stuff is in the same place, identical. The placemats on the table have to be perpendicular to the line and the split in the middle of the table, and the vase has to be in the center. I mean, it's things like that that were just wearing at me amongst other things, to where I was like, I don't have time to do that anymore. And I was falling apart because who I naturally was, I just didn't have the time. I couldn't focus on that anymore. And it was a battle. It was an inner battle. And that's how all of that came about, and wind up finally talking to somebody about it. Before that, I just thought it was just the way that I was, not realizing that it wasn't necessarily normal. you to be that extreme. So yeah, so that's how that conversation and that diagnosis came about. And that was even before the business.
Hmm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And what year did you start your business?
I started in 2014, and then it was in 2013, after Mike passed, when I had the therapy. And then the name of the business and everything, it just kind of came later on. That's a whole nother story. But it was so divine to me, and so in line with who I already was. And then my belief system around finances, it just all fell in line.
Yeah, it's a great name for all of the matter, like for what you're doing and your attention to detail, which is so important for your field. It's great that you get to take something that could be debilitating, but
Yeah.
use it for something that can be really very important for other people. And I know that you have like some boundaries around what you do. I remember us having like conversations. You're like, nobody's giving me a shoebox full of receipts. I'm gonna teach them how to use the tools. I'm not their admin.
Right. And that's one of the biggest things that I teach an accounting class monthly at a non-for-profit in the city called GIFT. Stands for Generating Income for Tomorrow. In addition to some of the inner transition, just for my business, is trying to actually transition more from doing the desk work per se of an accountant to more of an educational piece, because I believe that it's kind of like I probably will misquote it, but it's that whole teach a man to fish versus giving him a fish, right? Feel like the education, if I can just continue to educate business owners in the what and the how behind accounting, and why you're doing what you're doing, and why you need to track your finances and the benefits of it. When you do, it'll go a lot farther than me just doing it for them.
Right.
There's many accountants out here who would rather be the doers and not the teachers,
Mhm.
which sometimes can be I've heard as a challenge for some clients, where they've had an accountant before, or they've had a tax preparer, but there's not a lot of consultation going on. It's just that I need this from you, they do it, and you get the results, right? And it's not a lot of consultation and question answering. And
Mhm.
so that's actually my niche, is I enjoy more so of the teaching and the telling you the why. And so I feel like if I educate my business owners, it allows them to have more of a working knowledge of the finances in business, which will take them again a lot farther than just handing things over. And even if you outsource the work, at least you know the right questions to ask, or you know the why now as to why you're providing what you're providing to your accountant, and those sort of things. So that's more so my approach. But I do often share with them all the time. I'm like, I'll do your taxes, but that first year you can't come to me with a shoebox of receipts. But instead, I will teach you a better way. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll teach you how all of this accounting stuff works for the most part from a basic level. And then next year, I'll do your taxes. Yeah. I'll get your system going. Then I'll do them for you next year. So yeah.
I think that's really great. Like as you're talking, what come to me or what I thought about is like teaching financial literacy for students, like having a program. Is that something that you've ever thought about doing?
Oh, definitely. The taxes and such and the accounting piece is obviously the business side, but I do have a basic individual household side that's just as large and just as active. I also teach a 4-week financial literacy workshop, which covers individual taxes and just teaches the basic household, the basic employee, how taxes work. Again, it goes to that educating.
Mhm.
I always say there's a lot of people who work every day, and then at the end of the year for tax season, they go in the tax preparer with their fingers crossed, and all they're hoping for is not to owe.
Right.
I just don't want to owe. I just don't want, but they don't know what really goes into it and the back information. And sometimes it's just a simple explanation to say, hey, every time you go in there, you're owing. But if you just make this change right here, I guarantee you can stop owing every year. And so that's also something that, my clients come to me. I have many clients who I feel very honored to have been able to change their perspective
Mhm.
around taxes where they owed a whole lot all the time. And taxes was something that gave them anxiety.
Mhm.
They hated tax season. And so I'm like, if you listen to me, I guarantee you next year at this time, you won't owe because I don't like being the bearer of bad news anyway. I don't want to tell you that you owe. So yeah, so I do that. And then the class also teaches not just taxes, but it teaches about credit
Mm.
and it teaches budgeting, which is what the O, the C, and the D is about. So the obedience is about giving and taxes and doing what you should do with your money, being obedient with your money. And then the character is about credit, your financial character on paper. What do you look like on paper when it comes to your finances, paying your debts, learning how credit works, interest, things of that nature, all of that going into credit cards and loans and stuff. And then the third portion is on budgeting, which is about discipline, because Lord knows we need a whole bunch of discipline to be able to budget, right? So the D is on discipline. And I teach you how to budget, put your budget together and what budgeting is all about, different avenues to save. And then the fourth week is just about some financial tips, kind of talk about, mortgage lending, what do you need when you come to the table for more, just trying to debunk a lot of the myths and fears around all the areas of finance. Like you don't have to feel any kind, it doesn't have to be intimidating if you understand it.
Mm. And with your class, is that something, or do you do it in a group setting?
Uh-huh. Yeah, so I do both. So I provide one-on-one consulting. I've got some budgeting clients that just work with me one-on-one. And then they may just want ongoing monthly consulting, which is we just sit down every month and we go over their bills together.
Mhm.
Um, I have some clients, they have the finances, they're just not good at managing it. So I literally just work with them and we look over what came in, what's going out. I pretty much just consult with them on this is what you should pay this month. And this is how you should allot the money that you just got. And I think it's just something where they feel like someone's kind of holding their hand or they just kind of got a partner in their finances. So yeah, I do that from an individual standpoint, and then I do it in the group setting with the classes. And then ironically, I got an offer about a month ago to come to a summer camp, and there were youth there. I thought they were going to be a lot older, but they wound up being like kindergarten through second grade, right? So luckily, because I thought they were youth, and I knew they were youth, but I just thought the age range was going to vary. But it even surprised me but how the OCD could be translated to their level.
Mm.
And so even though it wasn't the same conversation I would have with adults or teenagers, the young people, we talked about obedience, but being obedient to your parents, doing what your parents tell you to do, doing what the teacher tells you to do. And then we talked about we talked about character, right? Right? Having good character. Like, what if you found $1 on the playground? Good character is holding that dollar up. Did anybody lose $1? And asking someone, because what if it were you that lost your dollar? You'd want somebody to give it back to you, that sort of thing. And then, of course, we talked about the discipline, and doing your homework versus
Mm.
going to play when you should be doing your homework. So OCD is just across the board.
I love it.
Yes, from finances to just youth behavior,
Mm.
youth mentality. And then, of course, at the end of the day, I always invite everyone to just come and have OCD with me.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. That's really cool how you're able to shift that age group to make it relevant, but also,
Yeah.
I mean, to impact them. I'm sure you still impacted them.
Yeah. It was fun. It was really fun. So yeah. So I enjoy it. Doesn't matter the age, youth, teen. I've done some teenage classes a few years ago at church, a youth group with some young boys that were young men, I should say, in training. And that's so they brought in, the financial piece and things of that nature. So yeah, so all age ranges,
Mm.
individual to group, however someone best learns.
So many leaders face hidden struggles, maybe where, I mean,
Mm.
you were, what, in your 30s whenever you found out that
38. Mm-hmm.
OCD. So this is something that you had probably struggled with,
Yeah.
not as maybe intense. I know that grief tends to intensify
Yeah.
things that we were already struggling with. What would you say to other leaders who are maybe struggling with something, but they're just kind of stuffing it down instead of getting that support or, that diagnosis that might help them?
First, just say to share.
Mhm.
Um, and then, we have this kind of new stigma about self-care and mental health that has increased over the years, right? To where once a time we didn't necessarily go to therapy for things. Now, to be honest, I probably would have I don't know that I would have stepped foot in therapy for that if I weren't there for grief therapy already.
Mhm.
So that would be one of my biggest recommendations now that it is so acceptable, right? Are people just more open to go to therapy for different things, even if it's just to talk through, situation, life changes, because life is life, and as we say now, and that would be the biggest thing for anybody or any leader is to share or to, if you don't have anyone you can trust to share that inner struggle, then by all means, look into therapy. Self-care is number one because where you are struggling in the area, it will exude in other ways that
Mhm.
maybe others will see that you don't even recognize. I can actually think back to situations as a supervisor in corporate America where my perfectionism was coming across to my work group.
Mm.
And then I can even reflect back on how it started to come through to my children, kind of like you were saying. It was a good friend of mine that actually wound up telling me, she kind of pulled me to the side. She literally was like, Ron, you can't impose that onto your children. And she was like, you gotta be careful with your expectations of your children because of how you are.
Mm.
Not to just get things done, but if your expectation is always perfectionism, she said you'll create children who feel like they were never good enough or what they did never satisfied you. Whew, on that day, right? It broke me down
Yes.
and it was a reality check. And I took it to heart. And after that day, it was just another moment of transition, mentally, where, I don't think I let my son do dishes. Matter of fact, I know it wasn't. It wasn't until he was 12 years old was the first time I even let him do dishes. But at the same time, I was falling apart because I didn't feel like I have anybody to help me at home, right? So here we are, we're widows. And I'm like, I got to do everything by myself now. I don't have anybody to help me. I got to do this. I got to do laundry. I got to do the clothes. I got to do everything. That's what my friends would look at me and say, Rhonda, you got two helpers right in your house.
Mhm.
And I'm like, no. And they're like, yeah, they should be helping you do dishes. You should be teaching them how to do laundry. Well, the problem was they weren't doing it. I didn't trust them enough that they were going to do it how I wanted it done. So I wouldn't even let them do it. So, but whoa, I have improved since then.
And they're like, dang it.
Yes, 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 yes. So yeah, I have improved since then. And what I learned was just to look away.
Mhm.
When it came to laundry, I eventually was like, hey, you guys are big enough to do your own laundry, but Lord knows I don't want to see you fold it. Fold those clothes, hurry up, put them away in the drawer. Cause I cringe. I cringe because I fold the exact same way all the time. It has to, so yes, yes. I literally had to get to the point where I could see those towels in the closet and realize that you can still use the towel even if the corners don't touch. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But that was a lesson learned that I was like, no, I don't want my children to feel like they they were never good enough, or what they did for me, I was never satisfied. And so I changed that. Yep, just try to change my perspective.
Yeah, I definitely can resonate with a lot of that and not
Mhm.
even having an OCD diagnosis, but definitely like some perfectionism that
Yes.
was worse with Dakota than it was with Hunter because I mean, I changed, I grew, but I can remember like the room, would be clean to him, but it would, no, you still need to do this and that, like
Yes.
nitpicking.
Yeah.
And I hate that, but to admit it, first step is admitting it and
That's right.
recognizing,
Yes.
right? So definitely has been better for Hunter, and we can't go back and change things, but I just think that for any parents watching this, I think it's really important to look away, as you just said, choose your battles.
Choose your battles.
Not everything has to be perfect, and they do have to learn. I think that
Mhm.
that's something like I always had them helping me because I'm like, I'm raising adults here. Like they
Yeah.
need to learn these things, but then I might have been like, no, you didn't do it right. Until I didn't, until I learned that that was unhealthy.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, my biggest thing was when I discovered human design was seeing that they were both emotional beings and I was not emotional. So I was feeling their emotions and confusing that as my own and not being the best mother in those times. And I'm very grateful for that knowledge, how I've definitely grown as a parent,
Yes. Yep.
realizing that,
I feel you.
I feel everybody else's emotions. And it was very confusing to feel that for such a long time. And I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for that tool.
Yeah. Yep. I understand that. I understand that. Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, but we are constantly growing
Mhm.
and looking for, trying to be better us's. And then, with such a traumatic experience, of course, like you said, it just magnifies everything else that's already within you, whether good or bad. You
Mhm.
know, if you love deep before, you love 10 times deeper after that, you
Yeah.
know, in the areas that you were myself a basket case then. Yeah, I was 10 times the basket case after that. So everything just gets magnified, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So
Through everything that you've experienced, is there anything that you would want other people, other leaders to take away from your story?
yeah, one thing that came to mind too, what I would do different and learn to do different. I'm still learning today. It's still all encompassing, whether you're the business owner or in a corporate company or whatever case may be, or with your children, is As a leader, you have got to learn to trust.
Mm,
You
mm,
have to learn to trust others.
mm,
Being a perfectionist makes you already makes that an already hard task, right? Because I already kind of described the person doesn't do it like you want it done.
mm,
However, even beyond that, there has got to be trust. You've got to trust your work group for them to know what their role is and that they're going to do a great job
mm,
and that they're knowledgeable and that they care just as much as you do. And then as a business owner, still at the same time, I've got to learn to trust more in that area. I'd probably have a whole work group by now if I could trust others to do the work for me.
mm, mm,
And so I tend to be a work hoarder because I feel like I have to do it all. I got to have my own hands on it.
mhm, mhm,
So I'm too working in that area. I have recently hired an assistant.
mm,
Yes, and so those were hard things for me,
mm,
where it's always a mentality of I'll do it. I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself. And to just be able to now have someone who stops me mid sentence or mid task and it's like, stop, I'll do that for you.
mm,
And so it's a very conscious thing now that I too am working on. And then in your homes, because we're the leader of our households,
mhm,
whether male, female, mother, father, in that leader role, we've got to learn to trust our children that they're watching you and they will learn the right way to go, even if they have hiccups here and there. You have already, you've showed them the example.
mm,
They'll come back to it, you know. The word says, train up a child in the way that they should go.
mm,
And when they're old, they'll return to it. And so we have to trust ourselves too, that we have led to the best of our ability. And then we have to trust that they took it in and that they're going to, follow the things that they've been taught and just trust that our children are individuals. And there's some things, even when you have taught them and trained them, there's still some things they're going to do their own way
mm.
because they're individuals and we have to trust that they are unique in their own being.
Yes, beautifully said.
Yeah.
And provide a safe environment so whenever you aren't being what they need, that they can still come to you and say, "Hey, this is how you made me feel in this situation."
Yeah.
I think that that's something that I want to say that I was decent at that that part of them coming to me. I just react better now. So, what does unleash your amazing leadership mean to you?
My amazing leadership would it means being it means not only cultivating others,
Mhm,
but as they say, walking the walk and talking the talk. Being an amazing leader is, for one, being who you are authentically, being your true self, which then allows those who I just talked about where you need to trust them.
mhm,
When you are an amazing leader and you are authentic and you're really you, it allows them to trust you. And so you have to be trustworthy to
mhm,
be an amazing leadership. And that's how I desire to unleash my amazing leadership the best is to be the most trustworthy person, human that I can be. And I take pride in that in especially in my area of finance, which is an area that involves a lot of fear and pride of my clients sometimes. I have to create a safe environment for them to be able to share their finances with me, their greatest fears, some of their greatest mistakes. and I have to present myself, not just present myself as being trustworthy, but I have to actually be that person.
Yes.
And that's what amazing leadership is to me, is to be trusting so that people will want to follow you as a leader.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you to learn more about working with you or your 4-week literacy class, how do they find you?
Oh, I'm OCD everywhere. Uh, my website is ocdfinancial.com. And I am on my socials, my Facebook and Instagram as OCD Financial. Not as active on Instagram as I am Facebook, but I have also got a link tree where you can go to my, it's linktr.ee/OCD Financial. And that's where you can go and see my calendar. You can schedule a consultation all in one place, and you can see everything that's coming up. And you can use the calendar there to sign up for a class and see the available dates that are coming up. So I did not schedule any for the month of August, but come September, they'll be back on there while the kids are starting school. If anyone is interested in some financial literacy and just to better your financial knowledge as a whole around, the taxes, the credit, the budgeting, any areas you haven't felt completely comfortable with, come on and come back to school yourself for a little bit for a few weeks and sign up for a class.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's really good. I think about that even for, I mean, myself, for my children. I think that
Mhm.
there's just so much that you could do with, I mean, 4 weeks is not that long of a thing to give you a really good baseline. So thank you. Thanks for sharing
Yeah.
yourself with
Yeah, there's a lot to do in between too. So after every class, there's some things
homework.
we go back and do. Yes. Yeah. So that's kind of that week in between helps out. Because
Mhm.
then when you come back, it's like you've had a week to go and do these little tasks and to do things and things I tell you to go sign up for, to create an account for, or to go review at work or pull your credit, look at things like that you can do in between. Yep. In addition to the accounting class too for business owners, same concept. So I'll be having some basic accounting classes that you can schedule for in September as well.
Very cool. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to
Thank
sharing
you.
you with my community, and I will talk to everybody again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to Unleash Your Amazing Leadership. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what's next. Want more support or curious about working together? Visit unleashyouramazing.com to explore coaching, workshops, and ways to connect. Until next time, keep showing up and unleashing your amazing.